Good morning. The Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation is called to order. Welcome to our witnesses. Thank you for joining us this morning. In the last 2 years, AI has brought the United States and the world to a critical inflection point. AI may be a technology as transformative as the internet, or even more so. It has unleashed a new global industrial revolution with the potential to unlock opportunities that improve our quality of life, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth. The country that leads in AI will shape the 21st century global order. As a matter of economic security, as a matter of national security, America has to beat China in the AI race. China has made AI central to its national strategy, and China aims to lead the world in AI by 2030, investing heavily in AI adoption across industries like manufacturing and defense. In this race, the United States is facing a fork in the road. Do we go down the path that embraces our history of entrepreneurial freedom and technological innovation, or do we adopt the command and control policies of Europe? I would suggest that Congress draw on the lessons we can learn from the dawn of the internet. In the early 1990s, Washington embraced the internet and explicitly adopted a style of advanced legislation that promotes long-term AI growth and innovation. That's why I will soon release a new bill that creates a regulatory sandbox for AI, modeled on the approach taken by Congress and President Clinton at the dawn of the internet, that will remove barriers to AI adoption, prevent needless state overregulation, and allow the AI supply chain to rapidly grow here in the United States. That's how we'll accelerate economic growth, secure U.S. dominance in AI, and beat China. And with that, I turn to the Ranking Member Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this hearing, and welcome to the witnesses before us, Mr. Altman, Dr. Su, Mr. Intrator, and Mr. Smith. It's a great pleasure to have all of you here, but it's especially prideful moment for the Pacific Northwest to have Mr. Smith and Mr. Altman here, both representing
a good progress, but there's a lot more that can be done, and that should be done in public-private partnership. Fourth, we must invest in talent. Frankly, the United States should be the best place to study AI, to work in AI, to really move forward all of the innovations that we need. And I think, again, this can also be done in significant public-private partnership. And then fifth, of course, in the area of export controls, we totally understand as an industry the importance of national security. And that is, that goes without saying as a U.S. company. But we also want to ensure, as Chairman Cruz and Ranking Member Cantwell stated, it is important to have widespread adoption of U.S. technologies. We lead today because we have the best technology. However, if we're not able to, fully have our technology adopted in the rest of the world, there will be other technologies that will come to play. They may not be as good as we are today.
Leadership role in the AI race. First, strategic investment stability. AI infrastructure is deeply capital intensive and requires a significant level of coordination across industry stakeholders. Stable, predictable policy frameworks, secure supply chains, and regulatory environments that foster innovation are crucial. Policymakers must provide clear and consistent policy and regulations across all jurisdictions that enables long-term investment and rapid scaling of AI technology. Second, energy infrastructure development. To support the rapid deployment of AI infrastructure, America must ensure abundant and affordable supplies of energy. Careful reforms in permitting and regulatory processes are necessary to accelerate infrastructure projects, facilitate more rapid construction, interconnections, and energy for data centers. Third is global market access. Maintaining America's leadership also means ensuring our technology has fair access to global markets. Export controls and trade agreements can be calibrated to both address national security risks and support global diffusion of American AI technology. And finally, public-private partnerships and workforce development. America's unique advantage in the AI race is enhanced by our powerful tradition of public-private partnership. CoreWeave is proud to co-found the New Jersey AI Hub with Microsoft, Princeton University, and the New Jersey Economic Development Initiative. Initiatives like this develop critical work skills, foster innovation, and ensure economies and communities are prepared for the AI-driven future. America stands ready to lead the AI revolution, which will bring enormous benefits. It is a rare moment in time that we must meet. If government, industry, and all affected parties work together, the United States can win this race and seize the vast opportunity ahead of us. Thank you again.
So exciting. And we have to ask the right questions in order to promote its growth on one hand, and how it can explore and create these new possibilities and pathways, and also how do we protect ourselves from bad actors or outcomes as best as we can know at the time. And Mr. Altman, thank you for spending some time with me yesterday. I look forward to continuing to work with you on this. So I want to start a little bit today at DeepSeek and adversarial AI, because in February I introduced bipartisan legislation with Senator Husted to prohibit the using DeepSeek on government devices. And earlier this week, Senator Cassidy and I introduced a bill that would expand those prohibitions to include federal contractors. So, Mr. Smith, what should our approach be to AI models that are developed in or by adversarial countries like the PRC? Should we be concerned about our adversaries co-opting AI to promote a particular ideology, collect sensitive U.S. data, and how are...
Directionally seems right. That doesn't mean there's no guardrails. It doesn't mean we say, like, we're going to go build a bigger data center in some other country than the U.S. Our intention is to build our biggest and best data centers in the U.S., do training in the U.S., build the models here, have our core research here. But then we do want to build inference centers with our partners around the world, and we've been working with the U.S. government on that. I think that'll be good. To this point, that influence comes from people adopting U.S. products and services up and down the stack. Maybe most obviously if they're using ChatGPT versus DeepSeek, but also if they're using U.S. chips and U.S. data center technology and all of the amazing stuff Microsoft does. That's a win for us, and I think we should embrace that, but make sure that, you know, the most critical stuff, the creation of these models that will be so impactful, that should still happen here.
Dr. Su?
I think we would totally agree with the concept that some restrictions are necessary. This is a matter of national security as much as it is about AI diffusion.
Better? Sorry about that. So the ability to build very large solutions to the computing infrastructure component of this is an area that we're going to struggle with from a permitting and building large projects to be able to deliver the power to allow those building artificial intelligence to continue to move as fast as they can in the race that we're in.
Mr. Smith?
I think the United States has a lead today in what is a close race and a race that will likely remain close. The number one factor that will define whether the United States or China wins this race is whose technology is most broadly adopted in the rest of the world. This is a global market, and it will be defined as technology markets typically are by network effects. 18% of the people in the world live in China, 4% live in the United States, 78% live somewhere else.
Learning in ways they couldn't before. And it's really, it's no longer this thing that was going to come in the future, but it's here now, and people are really using it. We're very proud to be one of the leaders of this. We're very proud that America is leading in AI so significantly. And I think that's critical. What Senator Cruz said about the importance of innovation in America, and that we have what happened with the internet, we have happen again. I believe this will be at least as big as the internet, maybe bigger. That needs to happen. For that to happen, investment in infrastructure is critical. I believe the next decade will be about abundant intelligence and abundant energy, making sure that that America leads in both of those, that we are able to usher in these dual revolutions that will change the world we live in, I think in incredibly positive ways, is critical. I got to go to Abilene, Texas yesterday, where we're building out what will be the largest AI training facility in the world. It's coming along beautifully, super exciting to see. We need a lot more.
Formative technology of our time. The United States leads today, but what I would like to say is it is a race. leadership is absolutely not guaranteed. It's a global race that will shape the outcome of national security and economic prosperity for many decades to come. Now, maintaining our lead actually requires excellence at every layer of the stack, so I'm really honored to be here with my panelists as well. We have deep partnerships with Microsoft and OpenAI that demonstrate how you need silicon, you need software, you need systems, and really the application layer to be successful. Now, in terms of what to do, I thought about what would be the most important things to say today, and I put them in 5 categories. I think the first, and probably the foremost, is we must continue to run faster. This is a race, and the race does not stand still. Nobody in the world stands still. We lead today because of the bold decisions that we've made and because of the innovation economy that we have.
25. CoreWeave's rapid growth is a testimony not only to the technology, but also to the surging global demand for advanced AI infrastructure. Our infrastructure enables American businesses to rapidly translate AI aspirations into impactful economic realities. By empowering companies to accelerate innovation, we're fueling America's competitive edge while improving productivity and prosperity. Modern AI requires specialized infrastructure, purpose-built computing capabilities that surpass traditional cloud computing in scale and performance. Today's general-purpose cloud that was built to support and scale the complexity of AI workloads. We cannot run a 21st century economy on the 20th century's infrastructure. AI workloads involve trillions of simultaneous calculations, demanding unprecedented computing power.
Across the country and around the world, at open source developers, people who are building power plants, electricians and pipe fitters who are going to work every single day. So what do we need from the Congress and the country in order to succeed? I think it's 3 things. I described them in my written testimony. First, as Chairman Cruz said, we need innovation. Innovation will go faster with, as Sam said, more infrastructure, faster permitting, more electricians. We need more innovation fueled, as Ranking Member Cantwell said, by support from our universities and the federal agencies that support basic research across the country, one of this country's crown jewels. We also need, as Chairman Cruz said, faster adoption, what people refer to as AI diffusion. The ability to put AI to work across every part of the American economy to boost productivity.
We'd love to bring chip production here, network production here, server rack production here. And I think the world does want to invest. We have a lot of global investment flowing into the U.S. to do this. We also want to make sure that other countries are able to build with our technology, use our models, and sort of like be in our orbit and use U.S. diffusion of technology here. So that's really important. We need to make sure that the highest skilled researchers that want to come work at U.S. companies can come here and do that. We need to make sure that companies like OpenAI and others have legal clarity on how we're going to operate. Of course, there will be rules. Of course, there need to be some guardrails. This is a very impactful technology, but we need to be able to be competitive globally. We need to be able to train. We need to be able to understand how we're going to offer services and sort of where the rules of the road are going to be. So clarity there, and I think an approach like the internet, which did lead to flourishing of
moving towards a period of this race where the size, the magnitude of the infrastructure that is being required to move our artificial intelligence, the labs that are building it, the companies that are building it forward at the velocity that's necessary is going to be a specific challenge that really requires a lot of thought. We have a huge part of our organization focused on not just getting access to power, but getting access to the size and scale of power that's going to be able to build the infrastructure, at the scale of Abilene or close to it, in order to, allow this to move forward. It's tough, right? And it will get harder as we move through time, because the existing infrastructure that does have opportunities, it has some level of elasticity, is going to be consumed.
I guess I'm trying to think through it. Like, part of what you just said in your previous response was that we want other nations to be able to build upon the U.S. AI stack. Is that the right framework? Is that what we're thinking about? Or is it more about the consumer? Is it more about getting the rest of the world and the 78% of the population to adopt AI applications that are U.S., or is it interrelated?
I think it's heavily interrelated. To me, the stack is, from the chips at the bottom to the applications on the top, and we want the whole world on the U.S. stack. We want them to use U.S. chips. We want them to use services like ChatGPT.
But does having other nations building on the infrastructure component of the stack, does that more or less then guarantee or at least have a high likelihood that then the consumers in that country will be using our products and applications? Is that the sort of theory of the case?
It probably does make it marginally more likely, but I also think if someone's using a stack that we don't trust.
But we need to continue to run faster, and that means ensuring that we have computing available. I think Sam's story about Abilene is an excellent example of how when you allow the computing infrastructure to expand at the rate and pace that the private sector wants, you actually make a tremendous progress. I would also like to mention the importance of open ecosystems. I think open ecosystems are really a cornerstone of U.S. leadership, and that allows, frankly, ideas to come from everywhere and every part of the innovation cycle. It's reducing barriers to entry and strengthening security, as well as creating, frankly, a competitive marketplace for ideas. Third, we are very happy to see the focus on a robust domestic supply chain. For us in the semiconductor world, we used to not get so much attention. Now we get a lot of attention thanks to the importance of chips. And the fact is we need more manufacturing in the U.S. The efforts so far have made
Opportunity ahead of us. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Let me just build on what my three colleagues have said and offer a few thoughts. The first is I just wanted to refer to the chart on this easel that shows the AI tech stack that was also in my written testimony. It makes a simple but I think important point. We're all in this together. If the United States is going to succeed in leading the world in AI, it requires infrastructure, it requires success at the platform level, it requires people who create applications. Interestingly, we at Microsoft get to work with all three of these leaders and their companies. Our success, each of our success, depends on each other's success. And what's true of the four of us is true when you look what it can accomplish. But the second is one that I think is too seldom discussed, even though every day it stares us in the face. Never estimate what people can do. Never underestimate human ambition. Never underestimate what a person can do if given a better technology tool and the ability to learn how to put it to use. That's the story of this industry. It's the story of the country. It is, as you heard, the story of Sam Altman. Not everybody becomes a Sam Altman or a Satya Nadella or a Bill Gates. Everybody deserves the opportunity to try. Tonight across America, whether it's the attic of a house or the basement or just an everyday bedroom, there are kids with computers, with phones, with access to the internet, and now the ability to put AI to work. Let's invest in their education.
Also need the government to stay out of your way so you can innovate and win this race. How do we incentivize companies to do business here in America to make sure we win this race in America and America leads? Not just China, but other non-state actors too. I mean, I think that the scariest thing about AI from a capability standpoint is it doesn't have to be a state actor to win this race. It's not like nuclear energy, it's not like space technology. I mean, a non-state actor could just as easily win this race and wield more power than anyone else. So how do we encourage innovators, investment to happen here in America to ensure we win this race? Mr. Altman, you want to start?
We were honored to announce back in January Project Stargate, a $500 billion investment in United States infrastructure. That is now well underway, as I mentioned, getting to see it yesterday in Abilene. The first site was incredible. We need a lot more of that. We need certainty on the ability to build out this entire supply chain, build the data centers, permit the electricity. including some models from our company, OpenAI, and Google and others, are the best models in the world. It's very hard to say how far ahead we are, but I would say not a huge amount of time. And I think to continue that leadership position and the influence that comes with that, and all of the incredible benefits of the world using American technology products and services, the things that my colleagues have spoken about here, the need to win in infrastructure, sensible regulation that does not slow us down, this sort of spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship that I think is a uniquely American thing in the world. None of this is rocket science. We just need to keep doing the things that have worked for so long and not make a silly mistake.
Dr. Su?
I'll answer in the realm of chips. I would say America is ahead in chips today. We have the best AI accelerators in the world. I think China, although they have restrictions,
Model registration. How harmful would it be to winning the race for AI if America goes down the road of the EU and creates a heavy-handed prior approval government regulatory process for AI?
I think that would be disastrous. To give a more specific answer to your previous question, which I think touches on why it would be so bad, there are three key inputs to these AI systems. There's compute, all the infrastructure we're talking about. There's algorithms that we all do research on, and there's data. If you don't have any one of those, you cannot succeed in making the best models. And as Brad said, the way for America to influence the world here is to have the technology that people most want to use and most adopt. The world uses iPhones and Google and Microsoft products, and that's wonderful. Like, that's how we have our influence. We don't saying, or almost everything you're saying sounds great.
So as I ask this question, I'll ask if you guys think we're ahead, but then the key things when you say we need your help, what would, very succinctly, sometimes we're not so smart up here, what would the key things be that you would need from the U.S. government to help us maintain that lead and dominate this space, which is what I think we need to do? Mr. Altman, again, to you real quick on that.
We've talked a little bit about infrastructure, but I think we cannot overstate how important that is, and the ability to have that whole supply chain, or as much of it as possible, in the United States. The previous technological revolutions have also been about infrastructure and the supply chain, but AI is different in terms of the magnitude of resources that we need. So projects like Stargate that we're doing in the US, things like bringing chip manufacturing, certainly chip design to the US, permitting power quickly, like these are critical. If we don't get this right, I don't think anything else we do.
So we are better off going into that with the mindset that we have to keep up and not take anything for granted. But then I would say the number one comparative advantage of the United States throughout the 50 years that have defined digital technology has been bringing the world's best people to our country and giving them access to venture capital. And we should continue to burnish both of those. And I think you're right to ask where else is venture capital going. I'll just say this. If we can keep bringing the best people to the United States, and if we can keep educating the best people in the United States, I believe the money will be here to enable them to succeed. But let's make sure we're continuing to bring the best people in the world and giving them the opportunity to build great companies here in the United States.
And American venture capital funds funding Chinese AI, is that in our national interest?
I think there's a really good question about whether
enabling the United States to become the world's leading adopter and exporter of AI. Thankfully, President Trump has largely reversed Biden's misguided AI agenda. In fact, I think AI was a sleeper issue in this last elections. Americans wanted to see President Trump and Republicans, and indeed all senators, champion AI policies focused on innovation and adoption. The contrast has been astounding. This year, there have been over $1 trillion of new AI projects, including major investments in Texas like the CoreWeave data center in Plano and the $500 billion Project Stargate in Abilene by OpenAI and Oracle and others. Adopting a light-touch regulatory style for AI will require Congress to work alongside the President just as Congress did with President Clinton. We need to advance.
That's an example that's extremely painful to users.
And you mentioned sort of your observation that the AI stack may get more vertically integrated. So how does that work then? Because right now, the best estimates, I suppose, right, is that, I don't know, China's 2 months to 6 months behind, maybe on large language models. Hopefully some of the advances we're seeing in the U.S., maybe there's a degree of separation. It's hard to know exactly right with DeepSeek, but then you get down to the chips, and that advantage is more like a couple of years, probably, something like that. So if that's where we're headed, does that increase the U.S.'s advantage in your view, or does that sort of allow China to catch up quicker as we get more vertically integrated?
I think there's a lot of things that can increase U.S. leadership, but we touched on this earlier. I think it's so important. There will be great chips made around the world. There will be great models trained around the world. If the United
That war began, is that AI is a game changer. We have intercepted attacks against Ukraine faster than a human could detect them, and we blocked those attacks from taking place. So you deploy AI into, call it, the front line of the products themselves. We have to recognize that it's ultimately the people who defend not just countries, but companies and governments, the chief information security officers or the CISOs. So we've created what's called a cybersecurity co-pilot that basically automates for those individuals much of the workflow that takes their time so that they can be more effective and efficient. When it comes to federal appropriations, I think that, to put it simply, the United States government must remain at the forefront of having for itself
one federal framework that is light touch, that we can understand and that lets us, move with the speed that this moment calls for, seems important and fine. But the sort of every state takes a different approach here, I think would be quite burdensome and significantly impair our ability to do what we need to do, and hopefully you all want us to do too.
Does anyone disagree with Mr. Altman's assessment of a patchwork? Thank you. I have some questions about the infrastructure that is going to be necessary to lead and compete in AI. So my next questions are for our infrastructure providers, Mr. Smith and is it Intrator?
That's correct.
Intrator, thank you. Could you elaborate on how current permitting processes have impacted your ability to rapidly deploy AI infrastructure? The more specific you can be, the better.
And to get there, we're going to have to do a lot better. I think David Brooks put it the best when he said, I found it incredibly hard to write about AI because it is literally unknowable whether this technology is leading us to heaven or hell. We want it to lead us to heaven, and I think we do that by making sure we have some rules of the road in place so it doesn't get stymied or set backwards because of scams or because of use by people who want to do us harm. As mentioned by Senator Cantwell, Senator Thune and I have teamed up on legislation to set up basic guardrails for the riskiest non-defense applications of AI. Mr. Altman, do you agree that a risk-based approach to regulation is the best way to place necessary guardrails for AI without stifling innovation?
I do. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, thanks. And did you figure that out in your attic?
No, that was a more recent discovery.
Thank you. Very good. Just want to make sure.
And is not a genuine, say, photographic or video image. And we do find that AI is much more capable at doing that than, say, the human eye and human judgment. I think it's right that there be certain guardrails, and some of these we can apply voluntarily. We've been doing that across the industry. OpenAI and Microsoft were both part of that last year. And there are certain uses that probably should be considered across the line and therefore should be unlawful. And I think that's where the kinds of initiatives that you're describing have a particularly important role to play.
And could you look at that legislation?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Mr. Altman, just same question, same thing.
Sorry. Of course, we'd be happy to look at the legislation. I think this is a big issue, and it's one coming quickly. I do not believe, I think there's a few areas to attack it. You can talk about AI that generates content, platforms that distribute it, how takedowns work, how we educate society.